Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. In today's proceedings, a clothing pickup collapses into a co-parenting shitstorm. The mother brought her sister, the defendant, despite the long-standing animosity between her and her children's father, the complainant. He came in petty, chucking his nemesis weed into the great outdoors. After that, a melee ensued that ended with a knife, hair pulling, and him being stabbed. Let's watch as the court tries to make sense of who did what to whom and why this group can't just text.
Record in the matter of the state of Michigan versus Mackenzie Jean Williams, 25-00871 FY appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. Haley Fortuna Gill on behalf of the people.
And good morning, Your Honor. Stephen Mills on behalf of Ms. Williams. Ms. Williams is present and standing to my right.
Okay, Ms. Williams is scheduled for a preliminary examination today on assault with intent to do great bodily harm and assault with a dangerous weapon. Are we ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe we are ready to proceed forward with the preliminary examination at this time. I think people wanted to place something on the record.
Counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. So the people are also prepared to move forward with the preliminary examination at this time. However, we did want to place on the record that we did extend the offer that the defendant plead to the assault with a dangerous weapon, and we would drop the assault with intent to do great bodily harm in circuit court if they waive the exam. If we do run with the preliminary examination, that offer will no longer stand.
Okay, and Mr. Milk, your client wishes to decline that offer.
Yes, Your Honor. That's my understanding. She does wish to decline that and exercise the right to the preliminary examination.
Let's see, any other preliminary matters?
On behalf of the people, Your Honor.
Nothing on behalf of defense.
You can have a seat, ma'am. You can call witnesses.
At this time, the people would like to call Malcolm Davis.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury? Yes. Okay, you can remove your hand from your pocket. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
The microphone that's in front of you, and the lady that's sitting directly behind you is the court reporter. She needs to be able to take down everything that's stated in the courtroom. That microphone is not going to amplify your voice. It's only going to allow the recording system to pick up your voice, okay?
Yes.
So I need you to keep your voice loud and clear so that we can all hear your responses, specifically me, and we have a glass here, okay? Your responses must be yes or no to yes or no questions. You can't do mm-hs and uh-hs,
Okay.
or head nods and head shakes. If either of the attorney says objection, you need to stop speaking so that I can make a ruling as to whether or not you can give that answer or not, okay?
Okay.
I want you to state your first and last name and then spell both.
My name is Malcolm Wilder, Malcolm, last name Wilder, Wilder.
Thank you. You can proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Wilder.
Good morning.
Do you recall what happened on March 21st, 2025?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. I was at home doing the dishes, and my child's mother and Mackenzie, they came to get some clothes because the kids had to spend the night. I stated to Paige that I was uncomfortable having Mackenzie there due to accusations that she blamed me for.
Stop. This is a narrative. You need to ask me some questions.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, so on March 21st, 2025, you stated you were at home,
Yes.
and what time did Paige and Mackenzie?
It's like afternoon, around like 12, 1 o'clock.
Okay, and what were you doing at the time?
Dishes.
And what happened when they entered the home?
Paige in it first. Then Mackenzie entered not too long after her. That's when I stated to Paige that I was uncomfortable having her there. There was no reason for her to be there.
And why were you uncomfortable having her there?
Just because of past accusations that she accused me of.
Okay, and do you see her here today?
Yes.
Mackenzie, being her? And can you point to her and describe an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Yeah, she has a black jacket on.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, we would like the record to reflect that the victim has identified the defendant, Mackenzie Williams.
Any objection?
No objection for purposes of prelim, Your Honor.
Identification's noted.
Thank you. And can you tell me the address?
9944 East Edgewood Boulevard, Apartment A.
Okay, and is that in the city of Lansing?
Yes.
Is that in the county of Ingham?
Yes.
Okay, so let's circle back. So what happened after you informed Paige that you did not want Mackenzie there?
Nothing really. She didn't really say anything. So I took it upon myself. I told her that I was going to slash her mom's tires, and I proceeded to walk out the door with the knife towards the car.
And did you threaten anybody with the knife?
No.
Okay. And so did you end up slashing any tires?
No, I didn't.
And why not?
Because Paige had stated, how are they gonna leave if, I do something like that? So, I thought about it, and when she said that, I was already outside, so I just placed the knife on the passenger seat.
Okay, and what happened after you placed the knife on the passenger seat?
I went
Of
back
the vehicle, right?
Yeah,
I
of the
apologize.
vehicle. Yeah,
Okay.
I went back inside the house, and, me and Paige had a conversation. And that's when I grabbed Mackenzie's weed and I threw it out the door, and she punched me.
Okay, and how did you react?
I didn't react. I kind of just stood there. Paige got in front of us, and she's like, what the F are you doing? This and that, and just kind of cursing at me. And I kissed her when that happened because it wasn't between me and Paige. And when that happened, after Mackenzie punched me, that happened. Me and Paige were going back and forth. That's when they both attacked me and they were pulling my hair.
When you say attacked you, can you elaborate? Was it the pulling your hair, or was there anything
they
else?
both kind of like came back in the door and like started attacking me, pulling my hair and stuff. And at that point, I was just like trying to defend myself, holding my hair and whatnot.
Okay, so when you say you're trying to defend yourself, what did that entail?
It really detailed me pushing them and more like protecting myself, holding my hair so they didn't pull any of my hair out. Because it was at a point where they both had both their hands like on my hair. So
okay, and then help me understand, where is this happening at?
this is like right in the doorway, like the door's open.
The door to the apartment?
Yeah.
And does the door to the apartment, where does that lead?
To the front porch.
To the front porch.
Yeah.
So this is a first floor.
Yeah,
apartment?
It's
Okay.
like a townhouse, honestly.
Okay,
Yeah,
that helps.
they're more like outside.
Okay, thank you. And so what happened next?
So we're kind of like fumbling and rustling around. I have my hair. Paige tells Mackenzie to run out the back door and just go get in the car and leave. And that's when, Mackenzie gets up. She doesn't run towards the door. She goes to my kitchen drawer and rambles for a knife. And she
Did you, and you say that I apologize, I
No,
didn't
you're
mean to
fine.
cut you off.
You're fine.
When did you see her do that?
No, I just heard it.
You heard it.
Yeah.
So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so when she had finally, got up off the floor with us from grabbing my hair when Paige stated for her to run out the back door, Paige still had, two handfuls of my hair. So like I'm just sitting here like this, kind of bent over. And so I'm just like listening. I'm hearing her go through the drawer looking for a knife.
And were you stuck in that position?
Yeah, I was stuck, like,
Okay.
because I kind of knew what she was going to do. You know what I mean? Because like, what are you going to the drawer for when your sister told you to run out the back door? So it was just like, when I finally realized, I tried to, yank away. I'm like, my body's halfway out the door. And that's when she kind of just came around the corner and, stabbed me in my arm.
Who is she?
Mackenzie Williams.
Thank you. And so can you tell me how much time passed from, I guess I'm sure it happened very fast for you, but can you try to explain to the court how much time passed from the initial altercation to the stabbing?
The initial altercation was like right prior to them pulling up. As soon as they walked in the house, I said to Paige that I was uncomfortable, having Mackenzie there. And that's when I went outside, and the stabbing event happened probably about 10 minutes after that.
Okay.
To me placing the knife in the passenger seat when I stated that I was gonna pop the tires.
Okay, so before, so let me just get some clarification here. So you're stuck in the doorway. Paige is holding your hair.
Yeah, she's basically protecting her sister, is what I was told. She was holding me so Mackenzie could get away.
Okay, and then how much time elapsed from when Paige told Mackenzie to run out the back door to when you were stabbed?
Oh, it was like immediately after. She didn't run out the back door. She ran to the kitchen.
Okay, and so the knife that you had grabbed earlier, where's that?
That should have been in the passenger seat of their mother's car.
Okay, so did you ever threaten Mackenzie or Paige with the knife?
No.
Okay, and when you were stabbed, were you threatening Mackenzie or Paige?
After I was stabbed, yes, I did threaten Mackenzie.
Before you were stabbed?
Oh, no.
And were you actively assaulting either Paige or Mackenzie?
No.
Okay, and where were you stabbed again?
In my arm, right arm.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about that.
It required surgery to repair a vein. I had to have, I want to say like 5 or 6 stitches.
Okay.
I did have a drain in my arm for a couple of days, just for no blood clots or anything like that. And I was in the hospital overnight.
Okay.
Yeah, and I still don't like have full function of my arm, like full mobility of it. And
okay, so that goes into my next question is how has this affected your everyday life since getting out of the hospital?
It's affected it drastically, honestly. At this point I'm homeless, like her sister Paige does not want to be with me anymore. I stopped by here and there, to see the kids and whatnot. I'm still in pain. I kind of got anxiety. I did state that my brother, he was killed years ago due to stabbing. So it's like, it's real traumatic for me. You know what I mean? So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no problem. But, just altogether, it's just real traumatic, honestly.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Just real quick, I just want to get some clarification on the address where this occurred. I have in my records 445. You said 9445.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we had recently moved, so that was my recent address. It's 445 East Edgewood. It's the same vicinity, just a different townhouse.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. No, you're fine.
Problem.
I just wanted to make sure I had it right on my end as well. Okay, there's no further questions, please, Mr. Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. So we're at the apartment that day. the page was there, correct?
Mhm.
Is that
So,
a
is that a
yes?
yes or no?
Yes, sorry about that.
You obviously were at the apartment, correct?
Yeah,
My client, Ms. Williams, was at the apartment? Right.
yes,
And your children?
yeah, my children, Hudson and Mason Wilder.
And your youngest child has a medical issue, is that right?
Correct, he has a heart disease.
Heart disease. And it requires there to be a nurse to come in, is that right?
Correct,
And she has to change out medical apparatuses on his body or something along those lines?
correct.
It's an involved process, fair to say?
Yeah,
Okay. The nurse is Ms. Elizabeth Amabo,
yes,
and she was also there that day, correct?
yes.
And aside from her work as a nurse, she really, I mean, the two of you don't hang out or anything, right?
No,
Okay. She would have no reason that you could think of to hold animosity towards you?
nah,
All right, no reason that she would lie or anything?
no.
All right. Now, you made several statements when police arrived. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And one of the statements you made was that when Ms. Williams got there, she was with Paige, correct?
yeah. She walked in a little after her.
Okay. And do you recall making a statement that you actually charged Ms. Williams from behind to hit her in the back of the head?
Is that in the statement or is that on body cam footage?
That was in body cam footage. Do you recall that at all? Or no?
I don't recall me saying I charged her and hit her in the head. I do recall me saying that I did push her off the porch when I asked her to leave and they did not.
Okay. You asked her, you pushed her off the porch, correct?
Yes,
And then that was also the same time when you grabbed the joint out of her hand, is that right?
whatever you want to call it. Yes, it was marijuana.
Okay. The marijuana, that's when you also grabbed it from her, correct?
No,
No,
no, sir.
that was before?
I grabbed the marijuana before that altercation, before her being pushed off the porch. That was before.
Okay,
And that's
so
when,
you grabbed the marijuana,
uh-huh,
then at some time later, you pushed her off the porch.
yes.
Okay, so there were 2 times that you attacked her. Is that right?
If you would call it that,
Okay,
I wouldn't call
I
it
would
that.
call it that.
Okay.
Now, let me ask then, after you attacked her twice, there came a point when you had a tussle in the hallway. Is that fair to say?
I was attacked in the hallway,
Okay.
I would say.
Do you recall making a statement to police that there was a tussle in the hallway?
Yeah,
Okay. I want to back up once again. Sorry to go back.
no, you're fine.
Your testimony today is that there were 2 knives. Is that right?
Yes, there were 2 knives.
There was the knife that you were going to slash the tires on, right?
Yes,
And then there was the knife that you were stabbed with. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
yes.
Do you recall telling officers that there were 2 knives involved?
No, I don't recall, but I think I
You
just said
told
that.
officers there was only 1 knife involved
Yeah,
at the
it
time
is.
of the incident. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yes, there is 1 knife involved in the incident when I was stabbed, yes.
And you did tell police that you plan on going out and slashing tires. Is that right?
Yes, I just told the courtroom that too also.
Yes. And now you're indicating that the knife you tried to use on the vehicle was actually in the vehicle. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you went all the way out to the vehicle with the knife, right?
Yeah.
And you essentially opened the door and put the knife on the seat. Is
Yes,
that right? Is that funny to you? Is that what's going on right now?
Yeah, because
That is funny. Okay. Your
um
Honor, at this point, I don't know if he's gonna need an attorney at some point for making helpful statements essentially on the record here. We've got him in Vinny's at least 2 assaults, intent to slash tires and destroy property. I don't know if people are gonna want to advise anyone here.
That's up to the people.
Judge Mack,
Off the record.
people
Oh.
in Michigan. A couple of things, Judge, I want to just put on the record. Number one, I haven't heard anything at this point that would require an attorney to sit up there at the witness stand with the witness. That's number one. So at this point, I'm comfortable with the proceedings going forward. I think there was one person in this courtroom that was feloniously assaulted, and I think that's already been testified to. Secondly, I would ask that the witness be allowed to finish his answers before he's interrupted. I think that hasn't been an objection that's been launched yet by Ms. Fortuna Gill, but I'm making that as part of this record, Judge, that I believe the witness should be given a fair opportunity to respond and not be cut off when there's an answer that Mr. Milks does not particularly want to hear. But that's all I've got for the record at this point, Judge.
Okay, just to address a couple of those things, the witness did, from my recollection, just testify to grabbing something out of the defendant's hand and pushing her off the porch, I think prior to the alleged felonious assault, which both of those things would be an assault, correct?
The push certainly would be. I don't know.
So
I
grabbing
heard-
something that's intimately connected out of someone's hand is also an assault, correct?
Right.
And he's just testified to two assaults that he initiated prior to the allegation that she feloniously assaulted him.
Can I
And
make a
so
statement?
that, no, you cannot.
Okay.
And so I think that is concerning. That's up to the people if they want to move forward with the charge, but he's just admitted to 2 criminal actions. The other thing is, if there's a yes or no question and the defendant continues to, the witness continues to talk, then the defense attorney does have the right to cut him off because he's only supposed to give a yes or no. There was also, I think, it was nice of Mr. Milks to respond, but he asked Mr. Milks a question in response to Mr. Milks' question, and that's not appropriate. Mr. Milks responded. So if there's a concern about allowing him to finish, then the prosecution needs to make a timely objection. But if it's a yes or no question, the witness needs to answer yes or no. If the prosecution doesn't intend to move forward with anything that the defendant is saying that may incriminate him, then he doesn't need an attorney. That's up to the prosecution. But you can continue your line of questioning.
Do we want to go off the record for a minute, or I don't know.
You needed to go off the record for something?
I didn't know if to give
Are we still off the
enough to
record?
people. I didn't
We're
know.
off the record.
You want to go?
Okay, back on the record.
People are ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. We are. I believe we are ready to proceed. I didn't know if the people were. I think we're just ready to move forward from questioning here.
Yeah, people are.
Correct, you're still questioning the witness.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, so trying to get back into the swing of things here. After the trying to figure out a timeline. After the joint, after the balcony, there came a point where you, Paige, and my client ended up in a hallway. Is that right?
Yeah, after I tried to close them out of the door, they both rushed back in.
And Paige lives with you. Is that right?
Yeah.
So she has a right to be in that house too, correct?
Yes, of course.
All right. You're also trying to lock Paige out as well?
The statement was they were leaving.
Okay. Now, when we're talking hallway, this is still inside your apartment, is that right?
Yeah, so if you can picture like a doorway,
Okay,
like if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it's kind of like right there. You
Okay.
get what I'm saying? That's kind of where everything transpired.
I think there's the doorway is actually to the outside, right?
Yeah.
There's not like a shared
Yeah,
hallway.
like I said, it's a townhouse, so it's outside. It's like A porch, a cement porch.
And the tussling that occurred, it was Paige and Ms. Williams, you're saying, who were fighting you, is that
Yeah,
right?
they, so,
Is that correct?
yes,
Okay. And did this occur like inside the apartment?
yes.
Okay.
This happened after I tried to, you could say, close the door.
Objection non-responsive.
Objection sustained.
And there came a point you're indicating where Paige had you by the hair, correct?
Yeah,
And that's when you're saying that my client went into the kitchen, is that correct?
yes,
And you're saying that my client grabbed a knife at that point, correct?
yes,
If you know, the nurse, Ms. Amabo, she was in the apartment during the scuffle, is that correct?
yes.
And if she said that you were the only person to grab a knife, she would be lying, is what you're saying, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. The woman who has no animosity towards you, right?
yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you said if she said what?
If she said that he was the only one to grab a knife,
Oh.
she would be lying, right?
Oh.
Sorry, thank you, Your Honor.
Can I make a statement?
You can only answer questions.
Okay.
In reality, you never put that other knife in the car, correct? Is that true?
You asked that question, yeah.
Sure. In truth,
Mhm.
you did not place that knife in the vehicle. Is that correct?
I placed the knife in the vehicle.
And in reality, you actually had that knife when you went after Paige and Ms. Williams, correct?
Not correct.
And during the tussling, they got the knife out of your hands. Isn't that right?
No,
And during the tussling is when you were stabbed in the arm, correct?
no.
And you were stabbed in the arm once. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then the fight stopped, correct?
No, sir.
You were not stabbed again, correct?
I was stabbed once. No, sir.
Okay. And then, according to your statement on direct, you then made threats towards, what was it, Paige?
I'm not sure.
Well, you made threats towards the two women.
After I was stabbed, yes, I made
Okay.
threats towards Mackenzie.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Let me read it.
One moment, Your Honor. Just a few questions, Your Honor. Can you please further describe this tussle in the hallway that you and Mr. Weeks were talking about?
Yes, I can. So after I guess pushed her off the porch, after I asked them to leave multiple times, they came back and busted the door, both of them, her, Mackenzie, Williams, and Paige.
Can I ask, where were you when they busted back into the
I
door?
was inside the home.
Where at inside the home?
Kind of trying to lock the door.
Okay,
So,
okay. Thank you.
so after that happened, I kind of let them in.
What is it?
Nah.
I have to stop him. What does it mean, kind of trying to lock the door? What does that mean?
So they were like pushing against the door, and so like I wasn't able to lock it. So after like I wasn't able to close it all the way, I just let go of the door.
They hadn't actually left there.
No,
Okay,
they came back. They were supposed to be leaving and they came back.
but you never was able to close the door and lock the door?
No,
So then they never left,
no, they never left. They never left the vicinity or the
or the
premises.
door, if you couldn't close it and lock it. Correct?
No, they left out, and as I was closing it, that's when they turned around and tried to bum rush back in.
Okay.
So
Can you
no,
explain to the court what bum rush means?
they kind of run back towards the door as I'm trying to close it.
Okay. Did they actually run back to the door, or
Yeah.
were they at the door the whole entire
No,
time?
they were not at the door the whole time.
Thank you, Your Honor. So can you continue with the tussle in the hallway? how that
Yes,
happened?
so like I was saying, as they bum rushed the door, that's when Mackenzie and Paige kind of attacked me by grabbing my hair and pulling me down, trying to wrestle me. And at that point, I was just trying to protect myself and grab my hair so they didn't pull any of my hair out. And
Okay, and
Paige-
this is happened in the hallway?
yeah, this is
Okay.
like right in the hallway, doorway, kind of.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so it's like right there. The door was open still. So that's why I kind of say like in the doorway.
and when you did have a knife, did you threaten anybody with
No.
it? No further questions?
So I just need to follow up because I'm not 100% clear on the timeline, sir. So you're in the kitchen. The defendant and her sister arrive. You asked for the defendant to leave because you weren't comfortable.
Yes.
And then there was a time in which you were both exchanging words, I guess. When did we get to the porch?
We get to the porch. We get to the porch when I grab the weed out of her hand and I open the door to throw it out.
Okay, so you're not in the kitchen anymore.
No.
So you were washing dishes. Tell me how far the kitchen is from the front door.
It's like if this is the kitchen, this is the dishes and the sink. The front door is like right here and right there. So it's like a
What's
little,
right here and right there mean? I don't know.
right in front of me, like right side next to me. There's a hallway, you know how there's a wall, there's a
Okay.
whole wall, and that's the hallway, and the
Okay.
front door is right there.
Okay,
So it's kind of like if this is the sink area, I would walk this way, and then I would walk that way. You get what I'm
Okay.
saying?
okay, so you left the area where you were washing the dishes and went to where the door was, or had the defendant come into the kitchen?
No, she did not come into the kitchen. She actually went to the bathroom.
Okay, okay, and so you went to the car first? Is that when you went to?
Yes, this is, I
Okay.
went to the car when me and Paige were having a conversation.
Okay.
The defendant was not involved in this conversation.
So when you had the situation where you threatened to slice the tires, that was not
That
between
that
you?
had nothing to do with
It was
her.
between you
That
and
was
Paige?
between me and my child's mother. Yes.
Okay, so that happened and then you came back to the house?
No,
inside?
I never left the house. Oh,
Okay.
yes, I did come back in the house
Inside the
when I
house.
went and put the knife in the car. Yes, I came back inside.
Okay, so you came back inside and then is this the time where the defendant is smoking a joint or?
No, she was not smoking. But
Oh.
she was rolling it.
Okay, she was rolling a joint when you came back?
Yes,
Okay, but your front door is still open?
yes,
Okay, and so that's when you took the joint and,
yes.
Threw it
I
out.
threw it out.
okay, got it. And
And
then,
that's when she assaulted me and punched me.
okay, and then you,
And then me and Paige are.
I didn't ask a
I'm
question
sorry.
yet.
I'm sorry.
And then you, I recognize that there's gonna be altercation or some words or something exchanged between you and the mother of your child.
Yes.
But so after that, do you all end up at the front porch?
No, we don't.
Like, I'm trying to get to, when do we get to the porch where
We
you
do not
pushed
end
her?
up at the front porch. We end up at the front porch when after she punched me in the mouth and me and my baby mama was having a verbal disagreement. I continuously asked them to leave. And so it's kind of like I'm guiding them towards the front door, like just go. So it doesn't,
How do you guide them to the front door?
like let's leave. Like you said, you were leaving. They had everything they needed because she stated that she just needed clothes for the kids. So I'm
Okay,
like, if you got that, Mackenzie does not need to be here. You understand? So you guys can just go, or you can ask her to leave.
Okay, okay, so they're walking towards the door as you're guiding them to the door, and then you pushed Mackenzie off the porch then?
No, that's not how that happened.
I'm trying to figure out when that happened.
Okay, so as I'm guiding them towards the door, they're like, she's like, they didn't want to leave. They were going back and forth. You know, Mackenzie was mad because I took her weed and whatnot. And so as they were standing on the porch, yes, I did, you know, like go push her off the porch. And that's when they came back, one rushed through the door as I tried to close it.
Okay, so your front door, you're inside the house. How far is the porch from the
The
front
porch
door?
is right there. It's just a little cement block porch with like a step.
One step
Yeah,
down?
just
Okay.
one step. So it's
Okay.
a little porch.
Okay, so they were technically outside the door at the time then?
Technically, yes.
Okay, and then you pushed Mackenzie off the stair,
Yeah, to close the door, yes.
and so that you can close the door?
Yes.
And that's when they start pushing back
Yes,
to
and
come
that's
in?
when they both kind
Got
of
it.
came towards the door.
Got it, so they didn't leave, you pushed them out the door?
No, I didn't.
That's what you just said?
No, I did not push them out the door. Yes, I did push Mackenzie out the door, yes.
Thank you. Redirect.
No more questions for this witness. at
Any
this time,
class
Your
based
Honor.
on my question?
Just based on those, the first questions there. Okay. So you threatened to slash Paige's tires, is that right?
It's their mother's car, yes.
Okay. Was her mother there?
No,
So Paige drove that car.
I would assume her or
Okay.
Mackenzie.
And you said that you want her to leave because she just needed clothes for the kids, right?
No, I did not.
I think you said that you were trying to push them out of the.
Yeah, she stated when she got there and I stated that I was uncomfortable. She said, "Oh, I'm just here for clothes for the kids."
Okay. And when you pushed Mackenzie at the front porch, the children were still inside the house, right?
Yes.
She gathered clothes for the kids?
Did who gather clothes for the
Did
kids?
Paige gather clothes for the kids?
I would assume so.
The kids that are still in the house?
No, we have 4 children. So 2 oldest are girls and they needed clothes for school.
Oh. Okay, no further questions.
Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor, one question. So how much time elapsed from when you had hands on Mackenzie to when you were stabbed in your arm?
After I pushed her off the porch, I didn't physically assault or touch anyone other than me having my hair.
Okay, and so how much time elapsed from you pushing Mackenzie off of the porch to when Mackenzie stabs you in the arm?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna check. I think this is outside the scope of what my cross was. I think anything beyond or anything into the stab.
He did not discuss this guy.
Okay, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. May this witness be excused?
Yes.
Okay, you can be excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses today?
None, Your Honor.
Is the defense calling witnesses?
They're not at this time. Thank you.
You can proceed. You need
That's
to
it.
go around that way, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can proceed to argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Today, the defendant, Mackenzie Williams, is being charged with assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. The elements of this charge include that the defendant tried to physically injure the victim. Malcolm Wilder, I misspoke earlier, I said Malcolm Davis. I'm not sure why I had that wrong. Tried to physically injure Malcolm Wilder. As Malcolm testified, he was stabbed by the defendant. at the time, and then the second element is that at the time of the assault, the defendant had the ability to cause the injury, or at least believed she had the ability, which is apparent by the stab wound. And then the third element is that the defendant intended to cause great bodily harm. Usually, if you're going to stab somebody, the intent is to cause great bodily harm. The second count is assault with a dangerous weapon. The first element being that the defendant attempted to commit a battery on Mr. Wilder or did an act that would cause a reasonable person to fear, apprehend immediate battery, the battery being the stabbing. The second element being intending to injure. I guess very similarly, you don't stab somebody without the intent to injure them. The third element being that the defendant had the ability to do so. Again, that's apparent by the completion of the stabbing. The fourth element of this charge being that the assault was committed with a dangerous weapon, or a dangerous weapon being a knife retrieved from the kitchen. Additionally, a lot of the questions, there are some questions of fact here that would be up for the jury, but at this point, the people do believe they've established probable cause to have both of these charges bound over to circuit court. Additionally, this is the victim's house where all of this is taking place, and the victim does admit to everything that he could have done wrong in this case. So at this point, the people would like to motion to have both of these charges bound over to the circuit court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I know I've been practicing for 13, 14 years. I've had a lot of cases with prosecutor's office, the city of Lansing, and done a lot of assault cases. And I can't even count anymore how many times I've had to sit through the prosecutor's expert witnesses who get up and talk about the wheel of power and control. And I think it's pretty amazing in this instance, we've got a man who has no problem threatening the mother of his children to slash her tires openly in court, and he seemed perfectly fine with that. He has no problem pushing a woman from behind, trying to kick him out of his house, despite the fact that Paige lives there. She has every right to be there as well. So we are seeing this wonderful dynamic of him trying to control Paige's life, not liking my client very clearly, and having this open and hostile animosity towards her because my estimation of where things are going, because he doesn't like it, is not being listened to. I'm bringing this up, Your Honor, because this court does have an obligation to look at credibility, and that is something the court can assess in this situation. Now, in determining credibility here, the people are trying to indicate, one, that there is great bodily harm less than murder. Count one, they are alleging she had the intent to do great bodily harm less than murder. Count two says that she did make an assault upon Mr. Davis, and the name is actually correctly stated as Davis in the complaint, that she did intend to make an assault with a dangerous weapon, but without intending to commit the crime of murder and without the intent to commit or inflict great bodily harm less than the crime of murder. They are charging my client with mutually exclusive charges in this incident, and they somehow have the audacity to sit up here, make a straight face to this court and say, oh, no, he did both. She both intended to murder and she intended not to murder. All for this individual who got up and admitted to crimes on the record, Your Honor. There was one allegation of a stab from a gentleman who has no problem dealing in the world of power and control. If anyone here showed restraint, Your Honor, I think it would be the individual who stopped the tussle from happening by having to stab someone, perhaps, and then stop. Stop the fighting, stop the threat. Flash once, it stops. and he admitted to stopping, except for him being the person to continuously make threats afterwards. He has routinely showed that he is a person who is going to threaten people, who is going to put hands on people, and that has no respect, Your Honor. I believe for the court here, I do not believe that he is being honest here. Now, granted, that's my belief, Your Honor, but Your Honor, I would ask that this court dismiss charges in both counts here as the people have not met their burden. Failing that, Your Honor, I would ask that the people, or I'm sorry, I would ask that the court dismiss count 1 for the rule of lenity here, Your Honor, being that count 2, the lesser charge, and the fact that we've got 2 mutually exclusive charges here, Your Honor. I'd ask the court at least dismiss count 1 if the court feels that there is at least probable cause for one of these charges. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. First, I would like to acknowledge that there is case law that supports us charging both of these charges. Assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder, as well as assault with a dangerous weapon. People v. McEwen says that we can charge both of these. Additionally,
We charge both of these under what circumstances?
so
And is there a pin site?
let's see. There's insight on this. It's the GBH statute says, yeah, there's no pin site on this. Yeah, the GBH statute says this section does not prohibit a person from being charged with, convicted of, or punished for any other violation of law arising out of the same conduct as the violation of this section. Felonious assault constitutes any other violation of law arising out of the same conduct as that which led to the great bodily harm conviction.
Give me the citation on that again.
It's people being McEwen. I don't have like the Westlaw citation up in front of me. It's Joel's working on it, but it's MCKEWEN.
W.
MC.
KEWEN.
Yes. Further, the charges don't require that there actually is injury here. However, we do have injury here, an injury that was so grave that the victim needed to undergo surgery to have a vein repaired and still doesn't have full function of his right arm. I believe he's right-handed as well, so it has been a huge.
I don't know. He didn't testify to any of that. He didn't
I think he
testify
did, Your Honor.
to being right-handed.
I don't know if he did.
He
So
didn't.
that part, I apologize.
Your Honor, regarding people being McEwen, is it 326 Mitch Ave? 342, it looks like there's a red flag with a negative treatment.
Uh-oh.
The pin site I have, Your Honor, is 326 Mitch Ave.
That's what I have.
342, and I've got it that on December 26, 2024, it seems like we've got some negative treatment. The first in part.
If that's the correct case, I have the same case pulled up, but I'm gonna let you continue with your argument and then I'll review the case.
That's all, Your Honor. I just wanted to bring that case to your attention. As far as charging both of these simultaneously.
Thank you. Do we have the correct citation on that?
Your
Oh,
Honor,
okay.
I'm pulling it up. Just give me a
Sounds good.
moment. I'll have it.
No worry, take your time because I'm gonna read this while you do it.
I don't have Westlaw yet.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So what I've been able to find is it doesn't have a citation yet, a fairly new case. It says it was decided or issued December 26th of 2024. I do have a docket number, which is probably the best way to look it up at this point.
Thank you.
Which is 158869. It's a Michigan Supreme Court case.
Your Honor, I'll do one better. 2024 WL 5229735. If the court has the Westlaw insight, that's what I'm looking at right now. Mr. Martinez is correct.
You need additional time to review it.
I can make an argument, Your Honor. I think I'm ready for that. Okay. Your Honor, I do believe that McEwen is distinct from the case at hand here. McEwen was discussing the mutual exclusive, not the mutually exclusive doctrine as it regards to a court finding it mutually exclusive, rather the inconsistent arguments. In that premise, it's the same where a jury can find a person not guilty for a felony, but guilty for a felony firearm, being that those are the only two charges. So even though if there was a bench trial, the court could not find the defendant guilty of felon in possession, or I'm sorry, could not find a person not guilty of felon in possession, but then guilty of felony firearm. In that situation, Your Honor, yes, the jury can have inconsistent statements here, Your Honor. The challenge in the case was to the jury's verdict. I think that's different here. I would point to the dissent, which I believe makes the proper arguments here, Your Honor, and that is more applicable to the case, which it talks to exactly what we're saying here, Your Honor, that if the assault GBH statute requires the defendant to commit an offense with intent to do great bodily harm. The statute, contrarily to the Feuds assault statute, expressly excludes that intent through the following language: without intending to commit murder or to inflict great bodily harm. As a purely textual matter, then, the language of the offenses is inconsistent, leading to the natural conclusion that the same person cannot be punished under both offenses for the same conduct. And Your Honor, I believe that that's what goes to the heart here. I believe that it is distinguishable in complete fairness. I know the court is just getting this right now. And it is a relatively new case, which I appreciate the prosecutor bringing to light at this time, Your Honor. But I would still say that McEwen is distinct from this matter, Your Honor. That the people really are talking out of both sides of their mouths at this point to say that she both acted with that intent and then without that intent.
Thank you.
Briefly, Your Honor, I would just like to draw attention that Mr. Milks is attempting to apply the dissent's argument here in this case, and that's not what we follow. Again, I don't want to be too repetitive, but just the language from People v. McEwen that would apply here is that the the GBH statute says that the section doesn't prohibit a person from being charged with, convicted of, or punished for any other violation of law arising out of the same conduct. So
I recognize that, but we can't ignore the fact that one element clearly requires there to be intent to do great bodily harm, while the other one says it's without intent to do great bodily harm. It's either one or the other. But I understand the argument that is being made. I understand both sides. In this particular case, I tend to agree with Mr. Milks that we can't have it both ways. The purpose of today, ma'am, is for the court to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause that the felonies charged were committed and sufficient probable cause to charge you as the person who committed the felonies. This is not a trial. We do not need to assess the facts to find beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a burden that's left for a jury trial if this is to make it to trial. And then the court also is the sole determiner of credibility of any witnesses, and the court also is charged with measuring whether the evidence raises reasonable doubt about your guilt. And I had testimony today from a Malcolm Davis. He testified that on or about March 21st, 2025, at their area of 445 East Edgewood Boulevard, Apartment A, that he was home in a home that he testified to that he shared with the mother of his children, a person identified as Paige, and that he was washing dishes when his child's mother came to the home and entered. Shortly thereafter was the person he identified as Mackenzie Williams, the defendant, who is the sister of Paige, and that Mr. Davis testified that he was uncomfortable with the Miss Williams being in the property because of some past accusations made against him, that there was some level of a verbal altercation that ensued between him and the mother of his child, at which point there was a threat to slash the tires of someone's vehicle who's not even there. And a knife, I guess, was presented and brought out to the vehicle, but then left in the vehicle as the idea of slicing the tires was abandoned. I had the same thought process that the witness had when he said that he left the knife there, because in my head, if you want them to leave, how are you slicing the tires? It doesn't make any sense. But it sounds like people are acting out of emotions and not processing with clear thought processes, is what it sounds like. But he said he placed the knife on the passenger seat of the vehicle. At some point, he returns inside the unit, and he did testify that Mackenzie had gone to use the restroom. She must be out of the restroom at this point, and she's rolling a blunt, some weed, and he takes the weed or grabs the weed out of her hand and throws it out the door. There sounds like there is another verbal altercation that ensues, and he testified that the mother of his child got in the middle of the altercation. And he also testified that I noted that Paige, the mother of his child, was holding him by the hair. In his words, she was attempting to protect her sister. And so the court found that as striking, because why would Paige feel the need to protect the sister if he was not being the aggressor? The court also believes that he was the aggressor because he's already introduced a weapon into a situation that involves zero weapons or zero threats. It's based on his own testimony. So they appeared to the house that Paige lives at. She can come there wherever she wants, and she can welcome whoever she wants into her home. And I'm sure she is free to welcome her sister, or should be free. However, there's a threat to slice tires. Then because things are not going his way, he snatches something out of Miss Williams' hand, which is unequivocal. That's an assault. You don't get to snatch something out of someone's hand. That's an assault. Spitting on someone is an assault. And he only references assault when it comes to what the reaction was. But the assaultive action that initiated this interaction was prompted by him. He made the first assault. Why the prosecution would like to turn a blind eye to that is not for me to determine. Then we move forward to some tussle or tussling that takes place. And that he said he guides them to the door. I asked him specifically, what do you mean guide them to the door? Like, do they not know where the door is? When I asked him to describe how far things are, he says they're right there. So it sounds like it's a relatively small apartment, but he has to guide them to the door, including guiding someone who pays rent there or who lives there, a lawful leaseholder there, to the door. He wants me to believe, based on his testimony, that they left and that when he closed the door, they bum rushed. And I'm from the hood. I'm very familiar with bum rushed is, but I wanted him to put it on the record for those who are not familiar. They bum rushed the door to try to get back in. And this is after he testifies, after I get clarification that he pushed Paige off the stairs so that he can close the door and lock it. Again, he assaulted Paige. He assaulted Mackenzie, pushed Mackenzie, that is, off the stairs. Why the prosecution again? We've got 3 aggressive and violent actions by an alleged victim, and the prosecution doesn't hear any of those things. But they only hear the reaction that comes in after the fact. I had issues with the credibility of this witness when it came to discussing the tussle that took place and how the knife was introduced. And that during this tussle, after he allegedly pushes someone, that they ran around him to go in the kitchen now to get a knife. How? Doesn't make any sense. Not adding up. There's no possible way he's blocking the door after he guided them to the door. That Mackenzie dodged, bobbed, and weaved, skirted around him, made it to the kitchen now to get a knife, while he is still making his way to guide them out the door so that she can then stab him. There's something else that took place that there could not have possibly have been 2 kitchen knives. Something is missing. The story is not adding up. And he pushed her and Paige out the door to try to lock it. That's why he could not lock the door. That's why when he makes statements such as, well, I was kind of locking the door. What does that mean? Kind of locking the door. You either lock it or you don't. He was unable to lock the door because they were not yet leaving the home. And Paige doesn't have to leave the home because she lives there. But because he wanted them gone, he tried to push them out the door and close the door in their face. So I have grave credibility issues. I don't know why Paige is not here. Maybe she's like, I'm not getting into this anymore. Would be nice to have heard from her, to hear from somebody else. It would be nice to have heard from whoever this other person, the nurse that was there, to see, what is missing. But what I know is missing and what doesn't make sense is that they're at the door leaving with no knife. Then all of a sudden he's stabbed. So I believe that the people have failed to meet their burden as to how the knife got introduced into this. We're at the doorway and I pushed them out the door. So for those reasons, the case is dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
How do you agitate a situation and dramatically recast yourself as the aggrieved party? And the hair pulling? What is this, grade school? The judge took one look at this family circus and said case dismissed. The only thing sharper than the knife is the irony. Did they seriously believe the justice system would reward that? When your own actions are this questionable, Is pressing charges just wishful thinking or a comedy audition? And if this is how adults settle things, what example is left for the children? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gripping courtroom moments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.